What is going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a good Friday. We're going to get into MLB in a minute. Didn't play a ton because it was a 4-game slate last night, so didn't do great in MLB. Did do really well in NBA. Almost chopped the I had a couple of, well, actually, I think that one ended up getting moved back because of a quarter of a point. I don't know what deducted, but I had two that were that were 10th exactly that were separate. So could have had a little different run out, maybe just another basket from McBride. Maybe what was it? There was a couple other things, but it was good. It was the NBA. We got it pretty well done, pretty well accurate. So hopefully we can do that for MLB today. I did want to remind everybody, Sheets will be back for the afternoon show. He's out this morning, but I did want to let everybody know. Look, we've got some great packages out there, and you can reuse the trials if you want to. We've got great content. We've just got to move over a few things, and we're moving over to our new site. But all the information is there. We have the partnership with PayDirt. We have the partnership with SaberSim. We have all of their stuff, and then on top of it, you get Cheats and Goldies projections, which that alone is already worth what the slight bit amount more that we're charging than SaberSim. And then you've got all of my exact exposures, Roadie's playbooks, obviously Brandon Cruz for NASCAR and Showdown stuff. And I think it's a really good time to join or take a look at least and see what you think. And then I'll also always open to feedback. Did get some good feedback yesterday. Really appreciate it. And well, with that said, let's jump into today's slate. I'm not sure what the schedule is going to be going forward for the summer once the finals are over. My guess is that we might go down to one show a day, but if you want us to stick around, give us your support and we'll go from there. I want to point out, before I go through game by game, none of these exposures are going to be anywhere near where they end up. This is just what I ran when you ran nothing. This is what it was giving you when you ran nothing. Just using the SaberSim stuff. And as I mentioned, if you wanted to use Goldie's projections, which I think is great from just differentiating from other SaberSim users, just make sure you have the most updated projection set from Goldie. I'm just going to do this for a second, then we're going to go back real quick. Okay, let's go back to SaberSim. Come on. All right, there we go. And I'm just doing this so I can do something different and build again. But all right, we're going to go game by game, and then we'll sort of make sense of it at the end and of what makes the most sense to us on this slate. All right, so I actually I kind of do like Bassett today. I think he's one of the I've got 3 pitchers in tier 1. He's a tier 2 guy, but I think there's upside. I think for the lottery, I think taking some shots on Springs is not the worst idea, but I don't think you need to. It's just too big of a slate. It's weird, going from a 4-gamer where we totally consider this, but on a big slate like this, I don't think we need to. In terms of like stacks, you're going to see some ownership here for Toronto, who coming off of just a monster game as chalk. Which again, when chalk hits on a 4-game slate, I'm usually going to lose. That's what happened yesterday. I don't feel quite as into Toronto as everybody else. They would be on maybe a tier 3 type of stack to me. They do have guys who hit lefties extremely well. But I just want to point out that Springs has not been that bad. Like forget, like, I'm not talking about just overall numbers. Just he doesn't get like beaten up all that often. His last time was actually on 420. He had a bad start, one bad one against the Giants, one against the Cubs, and one against Milwaukee so far this season. But his last 6 starts have been certainly nothing we'd want to have stacked against him. Although he will give up some home runs. His control has been a little more erratic, so we'll put Toronto. You know what? I'm going to throw Toronto in with a question mark as a tier 2.5 or whatever, just because I think that their ability against lefties is solid, and I don't have that many stacks that I love today, so I'm open to it. I think I'm going to end up with getting a lot more of Ortiz than I currently am. You can see I'm changing more to go along with Goldie's numbers. What I often do is I'll use Goldie's numbers, which you kind of do by hand for the pitchers, but I won't use it for the hitters until unless he's updated with the most recent starting lineups, because I don't want guys left out of my lineups. But he'll do that again later today, and Cheats will have his projections up a little later today as well. So as of right now, this feels like a little bit of a high projection let's just go to like 11.5. We'll sort of split the difference on that one. But I do like Ortiz a little bit here against the Angels. I think there's upside against this Angels team. Now, the Angels have looked like the team we want to pick on for a while, but most of the nights that really hasn't worked out all that well for us. There also is a little bit of weather concerns in this game. Ortiz has been good. You can take a look at the strikeout expected rate from SaberSim here. What do we have for Ortiz? 5.5. That's reasonable. And obviously at a reasonable price. So at 6K. It's going to be, he's definitely in consideration because of the 6K price tag. All right. In terms of the hitting, I got to a bunch of it in my first run because their way of getting different was to play the Angels. I'm not opposed to it. It's not my favorite thing in the world to do. A little bit of a stadium upgrade for them. They've got some cheap pieces in their lineup that make some sense. So the Angels are sort of in a similar category to me as Toronto is. But I do think Ortiz at 6K is an interesting value saver option. So I think it's a two-pronger for me in that way. Interested in just the Ortiz and the Angels on the other side of him. Not going to get to Cleveland. They are not my favorite team to stack. For those of you guys who are new, I'll do it when I have to, when I feel like I should sometimes. But even when they score runs, there's just not a ton of power. There's a little bit of speed, but not like anything exciting enough to where I really want to try and target them. All right. Naturally, this game looks just like very clearly Peterson and then playing the Mets. You've got Colorado. Peterson has been really solid this year. I'm trying to find the game here on my secondary screen, so I've got my little notes up there. Peterson has been very solid. It does feel a little bit like as chalk. Maybe we shouldn't. Oddly enough, he's been really good against good teams this season and hasn't really. It's hard for him to hit that ceiling because he ends up getting himself into trouble with his command sometimes. But this is the Rockies. They have the lowest total, I believe, on the board at 2.48. Really hard not to argue for him. Now, I'll just point out that Kyle Freeland, because the Mets, I believe, are going to have some ownership. It's not actually as high as I thought it was going to be. But I'll just point out that Kyle Freeland on the road has, it's not that he's been good, but he really I'm trying to look at the last game where he really got roughed up on the road. And there was one in San Diego. But pretty much on the road, he's just been so much better than he is at home. Just because, look, it's Coors. So I have the Mets on my list as a tier 1 option. And if this ownership was to hold, I think I might take a chance at it. The problem is, like I said, I see the Freeland angle. I see but this Mets team is tough, and you get one bad inning against them, they could break things open. And I still believe this lineup is. I don't know if it's better than people think it is, but it's better than maybe SaberSim's giving it credit for today. Oh no, they've got it for 5.3. That seems like a reasonable number, but definitely one of the stacks to consider today, regardless. All right, moving over, we've got San Francisco in Miami. Let me just see what Harrison's expected strikeouts are today because I'm kind of curious. That seems a little low, the 4.5. Maybe there's a bet to make there. Maybe there's bet the over on the strikeouts. Now, in against my defense, he has not been at all good or gotten there, but he's also come out of the pen. It has been a strange situation. So how many pitches do we have him at? Let's take a look. Oops, 82. Yeah, probably not going to work on this slate. I don't think it's the worst idea in general. I do think you can use lefties easily against Miami. But I actually think that both sides of this game is interesting from a hitting perspective too. I definitely want to attack Quantrill. It always scares me to have a little semi-chalky, but it's a big slate. It's a big slate, so it's not going to be too crazy chalky. But I like San Francisco today for what it's worth, and I am definitely open to a contrarian Miami stack, especially in the lottery. So put Miami in that same category as Toronto because Harrison has been not good enough to where I am going to shy away from it. Now, all right, this is an interesting one. We have good hitting weather in Atlanta, and I think we're going to see some action on the hitting here. I'm going to take a quick look at the pitcher's expected strikeouts because I don't know. Maybe am I just getting to be too old where I just think, okay, well, it wasn't that long ago. Lucas Giolito was awesome. In fact, he's like the most hit or miss pitcher in baseball this year. Every other start, he either just gets completely crushed or he's dominating or very good at least. He put up 23 in the last game against Baltimore. A couple games before that, he had 26 against Texas. He's 6,300, which is why I mentioned this. Against this Atlanta team who just rocked him, he got crushed a couple starts ago. maybe things come back down. Actually, it's not as good a hitting weather as it. No, it is. It's 12-mile-an-hour winds to left center, 74 degrees. That's good enough for Atlanta. And I have no interest in Grant Holmes, especially. I'm getting some of it right now. I get it. The Red Sox's strikeouts on the road have been there, and Holmes has been pretty decent. But I don't want, none of my high buy-ins will be here. I'll probably let it cook a little bit as far as the lower ones. I think this projection is too low on Giolito, I guess, and I think it's a little too high on Holmes would be my takes. So I'm going to drop down just a little bit on Holmes and raise it up a little bit on Giolito. But the 6,300 Giolito is somebody you could pair if you wanted to with Ortiz and then use all the bats. The problem is, what bats are you trying to get exactly? Except for maybe some of the bats in this game. As you can see, this game has some ownership on both sides. I like this game. So I think that this is a spot where I'm interested in, well, I'm interested somewhat in both the pitchers, not that much in Holmes, but I'm probably going to end up with a little bit. But I think Atlanta-Boston makes for an interesting game stack just from excellent hitting conditions. And we know there's upside for both these offenses. So I'm definitely interested in both sides of the offenses on as far as this game goes. Also, kind of a nice relief after having to face Wheeler and Sale. Now we get two definitely, even if you say the best things about them, they're certainly hittable pitchers. St. Louis in Texas. We've got Liberatore and Jack Leiter. Neither pitcher is ones that I use very often, and honestly, not really loving the hitting either. This is sort of like I don't want to say it's a full-on cross me off. If you had to pick any side, I think that you probably take some shots with Texas. But I just don't think we need to. I think there's too many other spots we can attack today. So nobody's standing out for me for Texas at the moment. Nobody's standing out for me for St. Louis. Not going to fault you for it because I feel like there's no real obvious situations today. So it's fine, but it's not like my favorite thing. We have Framber Valdez. As we know the deals with him, right? Like, he's not going to get you a million strikeouts usually, but can work deep into games. Usually gets the quality start against sort of a hit or miss Tampa Bay team after scoring 13 runs. Now, what I will say is that, look, I haven't given up on my guy Pepio yet, and it worked out beautifully in his last start. He put up 27. He has not been as good as I thought he would be this year. You can see the strikeout numbers are pretty low, the expected rate. I'm not entirely buying it. I think he's a little bit better than this. I think this number's too low. We'll go to at least where Goldie is for now, but I think I'm going to end up with go a little higher than Goldie. I think I might end up with a little bit of contrarian Pepio on a slate against a Houston team that, yeah, they don't maybe strike out a ton, but this has not been a great offense all season long. So a little bit of interest in both pitchers, not getting to the hitting. If you wanted to talk yourself into the Houston stack, not going to fault you for it, but it's not for me. Detroit in KC. I'm going to check out the weather really quick here. I looked at this stuff already, but it's just hard to remember when there's 13 games you're going through. Nice hitting weather, 77 degrees with a little wind blowing out to right center, and two pitchers that I think are solid enough for me to probably play none of this game. I think both pitchers are like I said, decent enough. You're getting a little bit of love for the cheap Royals, as we always see, because they're cheap, because outside of Bobby Witt, they're basically been pretty just terrible. But for me, as of right now, these teams did not make my list, so I am not going to be experimenting there. Now, if this was yesterday's slate, I'd be all over Washington here. I think Merrill Kelly is extremely overrated. He does have upside. He's improved, but I like this Nationals lineup. I think it's better than they've had in a while. They don't strike out a ton. Not going to play him. Not going to play Jake Irvin. Now, I'm assuming Arizona should have the ownership. But look at that. All going to Carroll. Something's going to even out about these numbers. It seems a little wonky to me. Got to like Arizona a little bit as a stack. I think that this seems like the most natural thing to do. Also gives you that late swap ability. So, again, depending on how your lineups are going, you're going to get swapped onto the best, whatever is happening later. So you hit the nuts on the front. You can always, mess with things later. If you're struggling, maybe you can pivot your Arizona into San Diego or New York or something like that. But I do like Arizona. I have them as a top tier offense tonight. Pittsburgh in San Diego. I love Pivetta tonight. Forget that I bumped him down. I just had to make one change, and it felt like a little aggressive to assume that he's always getting 20. Pittsburgh, this is the other spot of the day that I think is like, you're going to get some pretty decent chalk, but I agree with it to some extent. I think this and Peterson is probably a reasonable cash game. Did I miss a game here? No. Oh, there it is. I think Pivetta and Peterson is probably what a lot of people are going to do in cash. I've got one other guy that I like a little bit better. We'll get to him in a very short period of time. And then I have absolutely no interest in the hitting in this game. Mitch Keller has been solid. Pivetta, we know he's got the upside, and he's been solid all year. So I'm good with both. I'm good with Pivetta as a pitcher. I don't really want to play Keller, but I don't feel inclined to want to play San Diego either. So no hitting for me in this one. And I like doing this. I like to try and make a bigger slate smaller. So that's where I'm at, sort of. All right. Let's see. So we've got Fried and Gonsolin in LA. I'll tell you what, I love my Dodgers, as you guys know, and it's the Yankees. It's a fun, exciting series. Going to be going to a game, I'm sure, at some point over the weekend. This feels like a little too much disrespect for Fried. Now, if they made him a little cheaper, like Saberson used to, DraftKings used to do it all the time, where they would change everything based on matchup. I don't know how they did it more back then, and now that they've got millions of people working for them, they do it less. I think that Max Fried is in play. I'll put it that way. I don't think that you need to play him. I don't think there's any sort of like it's the Dodgers. It's like the nightmare matchup. He's just a good enough pitcher, and he's got a really good history against the Dodgers. I mean, he's been good against really good teams all season long. He's one of the best 10 pitchers in baseball. I don't know where you want to rank him. He's probably right in that range. I don't think I'm getting to get to the Dodgers as a stack, like not going out of my way to. And I do think that I'm open to the Yankees. So I like Tony Gonsolin as a guy. This projection on him, or not even projection, just the projection not against him, I don't know that I agree with this. So I do have interest in some of these Yankees. They are another team that I have just below tier 1 for me. I can't believe I'm doing this. And the Dodgers, one of the rare games you'll see all season long, the Dodgers are actually underdogs in. So certainly good with the idea of the Yankee stack, even though it makes me feel a little bit weird. It's not very often that I'm interested in a team facing the Dodgers and not the Dodgers at all. It just doesn't feel like that kind of a night. Watch the Dodgers score like 10 runs off of Fried and get them at 0 ownership. Maybe in the lottery, I throw them in like 1%. Here, I'll make a note. Dodgers in a couple lineups lottery. Okay. Just to give myself a chance. We've seen it happen. We see these teams that don't score against the starters too, and they score like 10 runs after that. I just could see the Dodgers doing something. It's good hitting weather here in LA for what it's worth. 75 degrees with 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing out center. Really nice day. It's getting warmer. So both pitchers heavily in play for me here. I think we could argue this projection seems a little aggressive on the SaberSim side. You can see Goldie's got it at 13.3, but they're also much higher on Woo, and I tend to agree with Goldie on the Woo. I love Brian Woo, as everybody knows. I keep saying this guy's going to win a Cy Young. I think he's a very, very, very good pitcher, and I actually think he's like underrated. Just look at his game log; he's basically awesome. And you're facing a Twins team that doesn't have like a ton of offensive firepower, although they do have Buxton back and Correa back now, obviously. So I'm not terrified of this Twins lineup. I like Brian Woo a ton, and I have some Zebby Matthews, another cheap pitcher to use. Although I still think this projection might be a little aggressive. But yeah, you certainly can use him against Seattle. I considered for a minute to get creative. Maybe we consider some Seattle, but I don't think that I quite need to go that far on this slate. So favorite stacks today, number 1 is Arizona. So they're like 1A. And then Mets, San Francisco, Atlanta, Boston, New York in that order. And then the lottery ones, Toronto, Miami, and then the Dodgers in a couple. Favorite pitchers, Brian Woo, David Peterson, Nick Pivetta. Spend downs, we have Zebby Matthews, Giolito, and Ortiz, and then Valdez and Bassett as potentially slightly lower owned reasonable options. I will cover a little bit more with FanDuel later today. That's where I'm at for now. I appreciate all you guys. Thanks so much. Like and subscribe, and really check out the packages. We've got some great stuff going on, Great team over here with a ton of tools, a ton of awesome content that's being provided behind the paywall, and we're shifting more that way. So hopefully you can be a part of it, and we can have a massive year, which we've already been doing, but we would love for you guys to be a part of it. So thanks very much.